Hi everybody!
As of September 2017, CD Projekt Red was valued around $2 billion. As of May 2023, their cap is valued at $2.5 billion, meaning if they were for sale, they'd be just below the $3.6 billion Sony spent on Bungie and well below the $68.7 Microsoft spent to acquire Activision Blizzard, but that still makes them a highly valued studio. Over the final weekend of May 2023, a famous Destiny leaker put it out there Sony were looking to acquire CDPR. CD Projekt Red have since made a statement debunking these claims. President and CEO Adam Kaczynski has since said CDPR is not for sale and wish to remain independent. In this video, I'll be covering why Sony likely dodged a bullet by not acquiring CD Projekt Red. If you look at CD Projekt Red's output, it's basically the Witcher franchise, and that's it. Sure, they also have Cyberpunk 2077, but look at the sorry state that launched in.
It was a hot mess of a glitch, and it was worth shit.
Its current state is fine, but it didn't live up to the hype built up around it. If you look at the games CDPR have in development currently, that includes The Witcher Remake, which was announced late last year. It'll mainly be Fool's Theory who will develop that game, with oversight from CD Projekt Red and people involved with Netflix's Witcher series. The game will use Unreal Engine 5. Project Orion, which will be a sequel to Cyberpunk, then two Witcher projects codenamed Project Sirius and Project Polaris. The scan information on Sirius indicates it's a game set in the Witcher universe and will feature multiplayer. Project Polaris will be the first part in a new Witcher trilogy. That leaves only one other project. This one is called Project Hadar and will be the first wholly original IP from the company. All of these upcoming titles have no release date given yet, however, since CDPR are kind of a one-trick pony, this doesn't exactly give me hope they can successfully make their own IP and not have it be a janky mess. Hell, even the Witcher games can be janky as hell, though I did wind up enjoying The Witcher 3 when I marathoned it during the early days of the pandemic. Though after playing that game and Ghost of Tsushima, I have had my fill of open-world games for a while. Another reason Sony dodged a bullet by not acquiring CD Projekt Red comes down to the fact the goodwill gamers had built up towards the company was pretty much used up with the Cyberpunk debacle. Also, since no one knows when any of the new games the company is working on will release, it's not like there'd be anything immediate to be excited for. It'd be as disappointing as Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda, who also make janky-ass games.
It's like my wife playing Skyrim VR. She can do whatever the hell she wants and have zero consequences, even phasing through floors.
At least that acquisition resulted in Hi-Fi Rush, a game I really need to get around to in the near future. But yeah, I don't feel like there'd be much for Sony fans to be excited over if CDPR were to be acquired. It feels like CDPR would benefit more from the acquisition than Sony would, which is something we're going to talk about next. Now, CDPR did say they intend to remain independent. However, let's just say that's a smokescreen and Sony were actually acquiring them. The acquisition would actually benefit CD Projekt far more than it would benefit Sony, because CDPR would then have access to even greater resources than the current 859 employees they currently have. The greater number of employees in theory means work could get done faster, meaning far greater output in terms of production on the market, which in theory means more capital for the company. It also means CD Projekt Red could then utilize some of the internal development tools Sony have, which would be beneficial for them. Who knows, maybe CDPR could then make a game where the swordplay actually feels good, or one where the gun doesn't feel soft when firing. I feel like I've shat on CD Projekt Red enough.
Definitely not enough. They deserve it. Keep it coming.
So I'm going to cover something else that would be good for them if they were acquired by Sony. They could then actually live up to the lofty ambitions their games try to reach. The Witcher 3 had a massive open world, and it was definitely one of the nicer ones for its time. There was a lot to do in terms of mission types, and encountering wildlife definitely made it feel like you were living in a largely fantasy world. However, on a base PS4, it could sometimes chug randomly when loading some areas, such as Novigrad, or areas with high concentration of people. Even some forested areas were a little bit laggy, so performance would definitely improve. Also, by having more monetary resources, CDPR could include some random encounters out in the wilderness, and have it so you stumble on more people out in the wild. That's not all CDPR could improve on if they were acquired by a larger company. They could gain access to game engines that look far better. Sure, The Witcher 3 looks good in terms of the world, but the character models do not look very good, and I feel like the characters always looked bad even for the time they launched. Cyberpunk is a generally good-looking game, but that came with massive performance hiccups on previous-gen hardware. If CD Projekt Red were acquired, they could then make a game that doesn't compromise on either graphics or performance, which would make people happy in general. I personally believe CD Projekt Red's CEO when he says the company will remain independent, for the simple fact the company is a big-ticket item and they clearly wish to remain independent, which is a great thing. Having more independent companies in the gaming industry is always a good thing, as it leads to more innovations versus just iterative games. While I feel CDPR have a ton of problems at times with how their games feel, they are mostly a good company. Personally, I feel it's best for them to remain independent, even if they could benefit if they were acquired by a different company. Hopefully they will release their planned game soon, or at least show something off, as I'm hooked on the Witcher franchise and I can't wait to play the remake of the first game. So do you feel Sony dodged a bullet by not acquiring CD Projekt Red? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. 2 of my previous videos will be popping up on screen now. One is about the studios Sony should look to acquire, very fitting since you just watched this one. The other is why Project Q is doomed to failure. Check them out, and until next time, keep blazing that trail.